The United States has long grappled with the complex issue of illegal immigration. In recent years, a particularly heart-wrenching aspect of this issue has come to the forefront: unaccompanied migrant children arriving at the US-Mexico border. These children, some as young as a few years old, make the perilous journey north, often fleeing violence, poverty, or persecution in their home countries. While the arrival of unaccompanied minors is not a new phenomenon, the sheer scale of the issue has reached unprecedented levels, overwhelming existing systems and igniting fierce political debate. The journey for these children is fraught with danger. They often travel thousands of miles facing hunger, thirst, and exposure to the elements. They are vulnerable to exploitation by smugglers and traffickers who prey on their desperation. Upon reaching the US border, they face apprehension by Border Patrol agents and an uncertain future. The US government is legally obligated to care for these children, but the system designed to process and protect them is buckling under the strain. The influx of unaccompanied minors presents a multitude of challenges. Overcrowded detention facilities, limited resources, and a complex legal system create a perfect storm. The situation is further complicated by the political climate, with sharp disagreements on how to address the root causes of migration and how to best care for these vulnerable children caught in the crosshairs. As the crisis continues to unfold, one thing is clear: the well-being of these children must be paramount, and finding humane and sustainable solutions is an urgent moral imperative. The plight of unaccompanied migrant children gained significant attention when alarming figures emerged regarding their whereabouts after entering the US system. Government data revealed that thousands of children released from federal custody were no longer being effectively tracked. This revelation sparked outrage and concern, raising questions about the government's ability to protect these vulnerable children. According to data released by the Department of Health and Human Services, as of May 2024, over 291,000 unaccompanied children had not received a notice to appear in immigration court. An NTA is a document that formally initiates deportation proceedings and informs individuals of their court date. Furthermore, over 32,000 children who did receive NTAs failed to appear for their hearings. These figures, encompassing both the Trump and Biden administrations, painted a bleak picture of a system struggling to keep track of children entrusted to its care. Critics of the Biden administration, including former President Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, seized upon these figures, accusing the administration of losing track of hundreds of thousands of children. They argued that the administration's policies, particularly the reversal of stricter border control measures implemented under the previous administration, had fueled a surge in unaccompanied minors arriving at the border, exacerbating the existing challenges. They pointed to the lack of adequate vetting procedures for sponsors as evidence of the administration's negligence, suggesting that children were being released into potentially dangerous situations. The issue quickly became a political lightning rod, with Republicans accusing Democrats of being soft on immigration and jeopardizing the safety of children. Democrats countered by accusing Republicans of exploiting a complex issue for political gain and ignoring the need for comprehensive immigration reform. They maintained that the vast majority of children were placed with family members or other suitable sponsors, and that the focus should be on addressing the root causes of migration, such as poverty and violence in Central America. The use of the term missing to describe the untracked children ignited a heated debate. Critics of the government argued that the term was an accurate reflection of the situation, highlighting the very real possibility that some of these children had fallen victim to trafficking, abuse, or exploitation. They pointed to the lack of transparency and accountability within the system as evidence that the government was failing in its duty to protect these vulnerable children. However, immigration experts and government officials pushed back against the use of the term missing, arguing that it was misleading and fueled a false narrative. They acknowledged the serious challenges within the system but maintained that the vast majority of these children were not actually missing, but rather lost in a bureaucratic maze. They argued that the primary issue was not one of children disappearing, but rather of inadequate communication and coordination between government agencies responsible for their care. Government officials pointed to a number of factors that contributed to the tracking issues, including outdated databases, incorrect addresses for sponsors, and the sheer volume of children entering the system. They stressed that ICE typically issued NTAs after children were placed with sponsors to allow them time to settle, which could contribute to delays in court appearances. They also emphasized that many of these children may have legitimate claims to asylum or other forms of legal relief, and that removing them from the country without due process would be a violation of their rights. Despite the government's assurances, concerns persisted. In a chilling testimony before Congress in August 2024, Tara Rodas, a federal employee with the Department of Health and Human Services, alleged that the Biden administration had removed vetting processes for sponsors, increasing the risk of children being placed with criminals or traffickers. Rodas's testimony added fuel to the fire, prompting calls for further investigation and raising serious questions about the government's handling of the situation. The issue of unaccompanied migrant children at the U.S. border is a complex one, with no easy solutions. It is a story of human tragedy, bureaucratic failures, and political opportunism. While the debate over terminology and accountability continues, the fact remains that thousands of children remain unaccounted for, their futures hanging in the balance. The incoming Trump administration has vowed to take a hard line on immigration, promising to reinstate stricter border control measures and increase deportations. While the specifics of their plans remain unclear, it is likely that unaccompanied migrant children will be caught in the crosshairs. The administration has indicated that it may apply the Remain in Mexico policy to children, forcing them to wait in dangerous conditions in Mexico while their cases are processed in U.S. courts. They have also signaled their intent to implement stricter sponsor requirements, which could result in more children being detained for longer periods. The political climate surrounding immigration is as polarized as ever, with both sides entrenched in their positions. Finding common ground and enacting meaningful reform seems like a distant prospect. Meanwhile, children continue to arrive at the border, fleeing violence, poverty, and persecution. Their fate rests in the hands of a system ill-equipped to handle the challenge, a system where bureaucratic hurdles often take precedence over the well-being of children. Until comprehensive immigration reform is enacted, these children will continue to be pawns in a political game, their lives and futures hanging precariously in the balance.